How do you follow up the most successful game of all time? A game that not only was the best-selling game ever, but defined an entire new genre and spawned hundreds of imitators. Well, you make a collectible card game and then get sued over the name by Bethesda. For Alexei Pajitnov, creator of Tetris, he struggled with other puzzle games trying to replicate the success. Tetris was followed by Weltris and Faces, and there was Night Move for the Famicom disk system, but nothing lived up to Tetris. Bulletproof Software, who was the company that had the most success with Tetris, then approached him about making another Tetris sequel. And that's where Hatris comes in. Was it as good as Tetris? Well, there's a reason that nobody remembers Hatris. The goal in Hatris is to stack hats. They emerge two at a time at the top of the screen. Pressing the A button rotates what position they're in. Hitting down does a quick drop to where they lock into place, and there are 6 stacks of hats that you're building up. Once you stack up 5 of the same hat, then they vanish, and 1 hat is taken away from the counter. When that runs down to 0, then you progress to the next stage, although all the hats that were left over will still be there. When you start the game, you get your choice of level, which not only affects the speed that the hats drop, but also the variety of hats that you'll get. You also choose a store level, and that will populate each stack with that many hats. The height of the stack is the key to Hatris. Naturally, if it reaches the top of the screen, then you lose, but there's more significance to the height of a stack than that. First of all, hats stack differently on top of each other. The top hat might be very tall, but adding another top hat on top of a top hat doesn't increase the actual height very much. On the other hand, another hat landing on top of a top hat just sits on top of it. The wizard cap is an even more extreme example. They don't stack as flat as the top hats, but most hats landing on top of a wizard hat can at least go part way down it. At level 0, you're only dealing with 4 varieties of chapeaus. Levels 1 and 2 add 1 additional one, and there are 6 varieties of hats in all in the game. Now with 6 styles coming out, and 6 columns, ideally you'd have 1 of each style in each column, but because they come out in pairs, you have to make some compromises in how you stack them. You're often going to have to put mismatching hats on top of each other. Something that can help you avoid that is if you have a stack that's higher than the others. You can catch one of the pair of hats that are coming down, letting the other one move freely, or at least freely over to the stack that's blocking it. You can hit down and it'll go to the point where it locks, but if you hold down too long then both hats go down to lock, and a lot of time you only have a split second to start moving the other hat before it locks onto a bad stack. So in those cases, I'd just let it drift downward. The big challenge in Hatris is that you kind of wind up stuck in a sunk cost situation. You need to protect that stack of 4 that you've built up because it takes so long to collect 4 again. But that means that you have to place some hats in bad locations. And since you can only get rid of hats by stacking 5 of them, putting a mismatching hat on top of a built stack means you have a long wait before you have any chance of getting rid of what you put below it. That makes Hatris surprisingly challenging. A fundamental problem with the game's design is that it's possible for you to lose well before you're actually out. A hat that stacks tall, like the crowns, might not be able to build a stack of 5 before it gets above the line. And since there's no way to remove hats from the bottom, you're kind of stuck. You can keep playing and eliminating stacks and possibly move on to the next level, but that tall stack will never go away. The Famicom Hatris was so difficult that for the US release, they took the Famicom version and reworked it to be much easier. They dramatically slowed down how quickly varieties of hats are added to the pool, and gave you helpers that could eliminate hats from a stack without having to collect 5. I actually think that undermines the game quite a bit. It takes it from being exceptionally difficult to being boringly easy. If you find that the Famicom game isn't hard enough though, you can hold down and press start on the title screen, and that enters high speed mode. I'm now going to say one of the most controversial things I think I've ever said on Famidaily. I think Hatris is kind of decent. It's not a top tier puzzle game. There's not enough interplay between elements in the field for it to be really great. But it plays fast enough, and there's enough challenge in it, especially if you play at level 3 or above, that you can play a quick session of it for about 10 minutes and have a good time. I'm not champing at the bit for Hatris Grandmaster, but I kind of like this one.